What was your greatest moment in your career with AWA?
Well, I'd be winning the belts with the against Kurt Hennig and Scott Hall, but the other one would be probably the greatest cage match that was ever done in Las Vegas, and in Minneapolis we did one on Christmas night. But the cage match was probably the best. It's been on every DVD. It's been talked about, and I have never seen anyone duplicate what took place in that ring, because we went into that cage, and it was a brutal cage. I came out with scrapes all over my body. My head was all scraped up from the steel, and body was all bruised up and banged. I went home. My wife put a picture of my back and counted the scratch marks from the cage as it ripped through her skin. That was probably the highlight, the cage match and taking the titles.
Yeah, I know you have had Legends of Wrestling figures, and you've been in the Legends of Wrestling video game series. How does that feel? As a fan, I'd like to know how that feels for you to be forever put in and forever known in video games and in wrestling figures.
Well, it's very complimentary, and I'm honored, really, because, back in the days when I first started wrestling, and half of my career, they never had anything like that. So to have, your image and your life there and that goal, yeah, it's really humbling, to say the least. Matter of fact, they've had the Legends figure, which is now becoming going off the market, so that's a real collector's item. If you got that, hold on to that. But now they're coming out with the Superstar Classics, and I don't know when mine's coming out, but it should be any time, because it's been a couple of years now since the company ended up making a deal with me about having it. And as far as the video games and that, I thought that was great to have that little thing. So people talk about it, and they say, yeah, had you beat up this guy or that guy, you did this to him. And I never got any of the games and looked at them, but I see on TV when they advertise such things, the technology they have today, to me, it's great. Great feeling to have that, be honored that way, to have all action figures, or whatever you want to call it, videos and that, memorizing your life, your career.
Who would you say gave you some of the best fights in your wrestling career so far?
That's a tough one. When people say to me, I wonder how they're really asking this question when they say, give me my toughest match, or who my toughest opponent was, when this isn't a game about who's really tough. It's about who's got the physical skills and the mental skills to make a great match. I'm really going to go back. Some of the great guys I worked with that I think had great minds and were really workhorses and worked really hard all the time, every time, and in and out of the ring all the time, was the two guys that come to my mind, and I've said this a million times, Bam Bam Bigelow and Vader. They were workhorses. They really, Bam Bam was, a lot of people probably agree and a lot of people disagree because they're jealous of him, but Bam Bam probably had one of the greatest minds in the business. It's probably the days of people like Harley Race. He had a intuition that where, because we work in different cities all the time, that where the fans are always different, and some of them are pickled, and they like to see different things. Bam Bam could change things on the fly, and really his psychology and his mind for the business, on top of his physical attributes, probably weren't, no one ever, not even Harley Race could match that, and Harley Race is one of my favorites.
Out of all the people that you've wrestled, who would you say gave you the best match?
One that I had with Kurt Hennig in Las Vegas.
What was it like the first time that you met Vince McMahon?
Well, you might say I ran into him backstage. It was my very first TV taping. It was back in Wheeling, West Virginia, at a Superstars of Wrestling taping. This was the night that Earthquake John Tenta came out of the stands to be a part of the angle of the Ultimate Warrior, Dino Bravo, in the push-up contest. Okay, I was running around backstage, and I turned and went, boom, right into Vince McMahon. You might say I bumped into him big time. I mean, I'm a big boy, but Vince is solid. I bounced off of him, and I hit the floor. And I was apologizing, and he said not to worry, you know, and I introduced myself. I'm Michael Porter. You know, I work for you on the California ring crew, plus I'm a house show ring announcer. He said, oh, yes, I know you very well. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good reports about you, you know, which made me feel, you know, fantastic. And I said, well, I've been wanting to meet you before, but he said, why didn't you come up to me? I said, you're the man. And I was still basically green, you know, and a newbie in WWF at the time. But it was a pleasure meeting him, and I had many chances to see him at other TV tapings, etc. And he's a great man. He was always treated me very fair. In fact, while I was on payroll for the WWF, I received 2 Christmas cards. One was signed by him, and the second one was signed by both him and Linda McMahon, which I do have up on my MySpace. And you know, he was a great guy. I will never forget at one TV taping, I said, Vince. He said, yes. I said, do you have time to hear a story? And he said, sure, we've got some time. So I told him, when I was doing my last tour, I told him that I decided to look up my family tree. He said, yeah. And then I laid my head on his shoulder. I said, I found out I was the sap. And he did the Vince McMahon. And so then, the Undertaker walked by. And Vince said to Taker, hey, Taker, come over here. I want to tell you something. He said, you know what Mr. Porter just told me? I said, he's going to tell the Undertaker my joke. That's cool. He said, Mr. Porter just told me that he, at the end of his last tour, he went to look up your family tree. Vince, no. And he said, you're the sap. And the Undertaker does where the 2 part where he lifts up his head and turns it almost mechanically to look at me.